I've had the privilege to serve on the board for the past 9 years. My current term will expire after this meeting, and there will be a new representative in District 4 over the next 3 years. I did not seek re-election to the board this year because the time has come for me to move on to other things, but I have thoroughly enjoyed my experience. I have learned a lot and tip my hat to the board and staff for the work they do on behalf of co-op members. Lake Country Power serves a unique territory. Trees, lakes, ledge rock, swamps, and bogs. There are poles, lines, and transformers through it all. It's not an easy area to serve, especially when the lines go off-road, underwater, and cross-country. I have seen the hard work that goes on behind the scenes. It usually goes unrecognized. So today, with nothing to lose or gain, I'm going to talk a little bit about the benefits of Lake Country Power being a co-op and talk about why the system that brought lights to family farms back in the 1930s is still essential today, and why I believe co-ops are positioned to be as important in the future. Talking about the reasons that co-ops provide value starts with a look back. 100 years ago, nearly every home in every city and every town had electric lights, but rural areas were still in the dark except for the kerosene lamp. It wasn't until the 1930s that rural areas saw the light of electricity through the formation of electric cooperatives. Co-ops were formed as not-for-profit organizations to serve nonprofit areas, or said another way, it was and still is the duty of an electric cooperative to provide service in areas where there is rural populations. Why is this? Because there are fewer consumers in rural areas and more miles to serve than a utility that provides electricity in a city or a town. Think of it this way. How many houses are there per square block in Minneapolis or Duluth or even Ely? Now think about how many houses per square block here in Embarrass or Swatira or Lawler. If you haven't heard of the last two communities, it speaks to my point. Electric cooperatives usually talk in miles rather than blocks. It's the reason the Minnesota powers of the utility world didn't extend lines into rural areas before co-ops came into existence. It's the same reason electric co-ops still mainly serve rural areas today. Last year, after a lengthy communication effort, we raised the facility charge to $42 per month. The change has been in effect since September, and members who don't like the change in rate philosophy have shared their views. With that in mind, let's review a little history. Lines were first constructed in the 1930s during the Great Depression. The minimum charge for service, much like today's monthly facility charge, was $3.25 per month. The rate was fixed regardless of whether or not co-op members used any electricity. Today, if you factor in inflation, that minimum access fee of $3.25 per month would be equal to $58.33 per month. So when you look at the cost today, I think members are still getting a good deal. The basic ability to turn on electric lights in 1937 was revolutionary. Electricity is among the greatest inventions and is still one of the greatest values of the past century. But the simplicity of turning on a light does not reflect the complexity of delivering electric service in rural areas. The way I look at it, it's hard to know when lines would have been extended into rural areas. If farmers and rural residents had waited for utilities that trade stocks on Wall Street, the lines wouldn't have been extended nearly as far or nearly as fast as the process that was put together by co-op members who worked together to put those first poles in the ground. And all of us who choose to live, work, and play here, who enjoy the peace and quiet of a star-filled night, the call of a loon on a calm summer morning, or the rustle of leaves in the evening breeze, we benefit because we can enjoy these benefits without any concern or thought about whether the beer is cold or the oven is hot. We all benefit from the decisions by co-op pioneers to extend lines into rural areas. Those early lines brought the power to where we are today. They did it as cost effectively as possible in a rural area. That's still the case today. What has changed? What about the expectations? We expect the lights to turn on and the TV to work when our favorite ball game is on. If we're honest with ourselves, we have very little patience when occasional power outages do occur. Electricity is something we can't see, so it's hard to place a value on the simplicity of turning on a light switch. But the simplicity on our end as consumers does not reflect the complexity of delivering electric service in rural areas. And more often than not, we don't appreciate that fact. Or said more directly, I know we don't appreciate that fact. The core of the co-op business model is made up of people like you and me. Co-ops represent Main Street, not Wall Street. We are local, the employees are local, your directors are local. Like a family, we're not perfect, but what counts is that co-ops are built on the ideal of working together to provide an essential service for the benefit of everyone who is served, the members of the cooperative. And each of us as members has the right and privilege to get involved, to run for a board seat and have your voice heard. This is not the case with other business models that aren't built on working together for the good or benefit of all. Another form of governance or oversight doesn't allow for, or I should say any other form of governance or oversight doesn't allow for direct involvement, as is the case with a co-op. Members have a voice and a vote, and directors hear all viewpoints. We listen to the many different perspectives and take alternative positions into consideration in conjunction with our legal responsibility to ensure members get viable, reliable, and safe electricity. We involved members last year with the advisory vote on rates. It was an important decision. We engaged members in the process and connected the membership in a discussion of real and potential issues that needed to be addressed with long-term fundamental rate change. The staff will talk more about these challenges shortly. Another issue we've been hearing about lately is board per diems and expense reimbursement. So in April, we passed a resolution that holds the board accountable to the budget we set for ourselves. It's no different from the expectations we have of employees. They delivered on holding down costs on their end, and it's time for us to do the same. Even though board expenses make up less than 0.5% of the co-op's annual expenditures, holding our expenses within the budget we set for ourselves is significant as well as the right thing to do. That said, this board is dedicated, responsible, and responsive. We often disagree, argue, and debate, but we undertake on behalf of the service provided for members. Directors on this board have also taken the time to achieve the training and education necessary to make decisions that are consistent with co-op principles and the mission to serve. It's an elected position and not an easy job. As an outgoing director, I stress again, any members have the opportunity and right for the board, to run for the board, to understand the issues, listen to members' concerns, and if willing, to make difficult decisions. If you choose to run someday and have the privilege of being elected by members, be ready and willing to sacrifice your time with family, your attention to hobbies, your business, or a good chunk of your personal life. Because serving on the board of an electric co-op is a time-consuming task. That's necessary so decisions are well thought through, decisions are debated, and outcomes reflect the values and principles co-ops are founded on. The job of a director is to listen and address individual concerns as best we can without prejudice or harm to the mission, which is to provide safe, reliable, and affordable service for the good of the whole. Co-ops were founded on the concept of neighbors helping neighbors. As a board, it's how we still approach co-op business today, especially with costs rising, energy sales falling, and new government mandates that make it harder and harder to meet expectations for reliable service. So the board has worked hard to balance rates and costs with a long-term outlook that doesn't cop out for the quick fix of cutting costs even further or limiting the facilities charge at the expense of service and reliability, whether it's today or in the future. We've been there and done that, and that doesn't benefit members for the long term. As a board, we've worked hard to balance the short term with the long term. We've worked together on the challenge of balancing rates, costs, and sustainability, especially since our largest load, the Ainsworth plant in Cook, closed several years ago. As I leave this board, I am pleased to see it is focused on the mission to provide safe and reliable service well into the future. That means working with local communities and businesses to support future economic impact and development in our service area, and that includes mining loads. As retail distributors of local electric service, distribution co-ops are also uniquely positioned as the winds of change blow through the ever-changing world of energy generation. Electricity of the future is expected to be more local than ever, with the possibility of residential or utility scale solar panel displays or other forms of renewable energy. A common picture will be throughout the landscape. It may not be as bold as placing a man on the moon, but public policy and public sentiment is shifting, and local electricity generation and generating electricity close to your own doorstep is closer to reality than some might think. And with wires, substations, equipment, and local people in place to ensure the service, safety, and reliability of the electrons flowing through the lines, the purpose, place, and importance of local co-ops governed by local people and focused on local benefits that benefit the good of the whole will be more important than ever. So as I look back on all that I've learned, time spent reviewing information, and the decision that have been made on behalf of co-op members, I'm proud to say I've participated. It doesn't mean that it was easy, and it doesn't set us up to win popularity contests. But for those I've served with, I thank you for your service, dedication, and commitment to the cooperative. To its ideals, its service, its roots, and its future, the cooperative business model was founded on democratic values and principles. I'm confident future members will benefit from the co-op model that has involved its consumer base since its beginnings, a model that engages members in important issues and decisions, and a model that is well positioned to operate with local influence and control regardless of what changes are mandated or dictated or evolve in the future. I now leave you with a closer look at the service you don't see from employees who provide you with safe, reliable, and affordable electricity nearly every day of the year. My hat goes off to the employees of the co-op as well. Thank you.